I was fired in less time than it takes to refill a coffee cup, and it happened because the acting director wanted the room to know he could do it. "Let's keep this efficient," he said, hands flat on the table, eyes skipping over everyone until they landed on me. "The CEO is in Europe. I'm handling operations. My name is Matilda Harper." I had been with the company long enough to know when a meeting wasn't about work. I didn't speak. I waited. He leaned back. "Your role is no longer necessary." One of the analysts shifted in her chair. Someone else opened their mouth, then closed it. I said calmly, "That's not a performance review." "It doesn't need to be," he replied. "This is about redundancy." "Redundancy," I repeated. "You're sure?" he smiled. "The kind people use when they think confidence equals authority. I'm in charge now. Your boss knows that, right?" I looked straight at him. "Before you do this, talk to the lawyer." The smile widened. "No need. Human resources is already prepared." Two representatives stepped forward. Neither would meet my eyes. "This is effective immediately," one of them said, sliding a folder toward me. "If you could sign," I opened it. "Termination. No notice, no severance. Clean and fast." I signed. The acting director blinked. "That was easy." I kept the pen. "You asked for efficiency." He laughed. "Security will walk you out." I stood. "I'll see myself out." As I turned to leave, he called after me loud enough for the room to hear. "For the record, this company doesn't pause because one person leaves." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The story you're about to hear is a fictional work created by the writing team at RevengeAITA. While inspired by real workplace dynamics and corporate power struggles, all characters, companies, and events are fictional. Each story carries its own message, its own consequences, and its own form of justice, never repeated, never recycled. By the time I reached my desk, my system access was already gone. Emails stopped syncing, files vanished. Someone was moving faster than they understood. Human resources hovered nearby. "Do you need a moment?" "No," I said. "I'm done." I took my bag, my coat, and the copy of the document I had just signed. As I walked past the glass office, the acting director was already on a call, voice confident, saying my name like a problem he had solved. He had no idea what that signature meant, and he wouldn't realize it until it was too late. Why didn't I argue, beg, or stall? Human resources followed me to my desk like they expected me to collapse there. One of them, a woman I had trained years ago, cleared her throat. "Matilda, are you sure you don't want to review the document more carefully?" "I already did," I said. Her pen hovered above the clipboard. "Most people ask for time." "I'm not most people." The acting director appeared behind her, still energized by his performance. "She's efficient," he said, pleased with himself. "That's one thing I'll give her." I didn't look at him. I logged out of my workstation even though the system had already done it for me. Human resources tried again. "You can take the weekend. We can delay processing until Monday." "No," I said, "process it now." That was the moment his tone shifted. He tilted his head. "Studying me. You're taking this well. I'm taking this correctly." He laughed. "You always were dramatic in your own way." I slid the signed pages back into the folder as I did. My eyes passed over the line I already knew by heart. Section 7, Subsection C, Involuntary Termination. Automatic release of assigned authority. Immediate effect. Human Resources frowned. "You don't need a copy. I already have one." The acting director waved them off. "She's done. Let's move." They left. He stayed. "You know," he said, lowering his voice, "people usually regret not fighting harder." I finally looked at him. "People usually regret acting without advice," he smirked. "Still pretending you matter." I picked up my bag. Pretending implies effort. As I stood, he added, "You'll be locked out within the hour." "Don't try anything clever. I wouldn't dare," I said, and meant something entirely different. I walked toward the elevators. Halfway there, my phone buzzed once. System notification. Access revoked. Clean. Immediate. Exactly as ordered. Behind me. The acting director was already giving instructions, saying my name like it was past tense. By the time the doors closed, the process he had rushed was already running, and no one had thought to slow it down. What's the first thing that breaks when the wrong person leaves? I heard about it from a text message, not an alarm. Hey Matilda, random question. Did you ever handle license CN 883522? It was from Aaron in procurement. We'd worked together for years. He never texted casually. I replied, yes. Why? His answer came fast. Vendor flagged it as inactive. This morning I didn't respond right away. I called him instead. This is probably nothing, he said quickly, like he was trying to convince himself. The acting director already said it's a technical delay. What exactly did the vendor say? I asked. Aaron hesitated. They said shipment is paused until the C is revalidated. They attached the notice, read it to me. He cleared his throat. Receiving entity listed as non-compliant. License CN 88883522 inactive, pending authorized signatory. I closed my eyes. Who did they list as the signatory? There was a pause. You. I could hear voices behind him. Someone laughing. Someone else saying just root it. Did you tell him that I asked? I tried, Aaron said. He waved it off. Said licenses don't just die because one employee leaves. They don't. I said they stop because authority is removed. He lowered his voice. He told legal to look later. Said the CEO hates delays. Another voice cut in on his end, the acting director's confident loud. Tell the vendor we'll update the contact by end of day. Aaron covered the phone. He wants to know if you can send over whatever you used to sign. I can't. I said because you don't want to, he asked, because I don't exist in the system anymore. Silence. I didn't think it would be this fast, he said quietly. Neither did he, I said. We hung up. A minute later, another message appeared, screenshot this time. The license ID circled in red. Under it, a single line. Authorization invalid. They thought something external had failed. What actually failed was the assumption that authority could be replaced as easily as a login. What happens when confidence runs into federal law? I wasn't in the room, but I heard every word as if I were sitting at the table. Aaron called me again, voice tight, legals asking questions. Which ones I said? The kind that don't have creative answers. He put me on speaker without asking. I heard a new voice, older, sharper. This is Melissa Grant, internal counsel. Matilda, I need clarity. You won't get it from me, I said evenly. I'm no longer employed. A pause. Papers shifting. Who is the current authorized signatory for license? CN 883522? Melissa asked. No one answered. The acting director stepped in, irritation barely contained. That's being reassigned. Melissa didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Reassigned to whom? Another pause. She was terminated. Someone finally said a junior associate, too honest to soften it. Silence followed. Not awkward, not polite. The kind that lands heavy and stays. Melissa spoke again. Then the license cannot be renewed. The acting director scoffed. That's not how this works. We'll update the contact. No, she said. You can update a contact. You cannot replace legal authority without re-certification. How long does that take? He snapped. Several weeks, Melissa replied, assuming approval. And until then, she said carefully, operations tied to that license are non-compliant. I could hear him exhale sharply. This is overblown. It isn't, she said. You fired the person who could sign. Someone whispered my name like it was a mistake they couldn't erase. Aaron muted the call. They're panicking. They should, I said. He swallowed. Is there any workaround? No, I said. There's only process. The acting director's voice broke through again. Louder now. So what? Everything just stops. Melissa answered him without hesitation. Legally, yes. The call ended soon after. No goodbyes, no resolutions. When Aaron came back on the line, his voice was different. They're calling the CEO. Good, I said. I set my phone down and waited, knowing the truth had finally been spoken aloud, and it couldn't be taken back. What do you say when your company collapses while you're on vacation? I wasn't there when the CEO returned to Boston. But Aaron stayed on the phone with me the entire time, whispering updates like a live broadcast no one wanted to hear. He just walked in, Aaron said, suit still creased, smiling. I pictured it easily. Confidence born of distance, the belief that systems hold while leaders rest. A door slammed somewhere on Aaron's end. Why is everything red? The CEO demanded that voice I knew. Calm when he was angry, dangerous when he got quiet. No one answered him fast enough. What is this? He said again. Why are shipments frozen? The acting director jumped in. Eager, minor disruption. We're aligning compliance after a role change. A role change? The CEO repeated. Which role? Silence stretched. Then someone said my name. What do you mean, Matilda? The CEO asked. Aaron sucked in a breath. He just pulled up the dashboard. I heard the clicking through the line. Faster now, more frantic. Why is her name still here? The CEO said. Why is it grayed out? The acting director tried to recover. She was redundant. We're reallocating authority. You fired her? The CEO said. Yes, he answered. While you were away, there was a beat. Then the voice that echoed down the hall and through my phone. What the hell did you do while I was gone? No one spoke, Aaron whispered. He's standing now. Who approved this? The CEO demanded. I did, the acting director said. Smaller now. Did legal sign off? Another pause. The CEO exhaled slowly. Bring legal now. Footsteps, chairs scraping, papers dropping. Aaron covered the phone. He looked stunned. Stunned isn't enough, I said. When the CEO spoke again, his voice had changed. Can this be reversed? Melissa from legal answered him steady. No. The termination triggered an automatic revocation. Authority cannot be reinstated without re-certification. How long? Several weeks. The CEO said nothing for a moment, then quietly. Get me Matilda. Aaron pulled the phone away and whispered. They finally understand. I said nothing. The damage was already moving faster than any apology. What does it feel like when the people who erased you suddenly need you? The first call came from a number I recognized, but hadn't saved. I let it ring. The second came 5 minutes later. I answered the third. Matilda, the CEO said. Careful now. Thank you for taking this. I didn't. I said, I answered a breath on the other end. We'd like to talk about what I asked about resolving the situation. I leaned back against the kitchen counter. Fix what exactly? Silence. Not a dropped call. Not a mute button. The kind of silence where someone is searching for a word that does not exist. The compliance disruption, he finally said. The licenses. You mean the authority you terminated? I said. We didn't realize I told your acting director to speak to a lawyer, I said. He declined. Another voice cut in softer. Melissa from legal. Matilda, we're looking for a path forward. There isn't one, I said. Not the way you mean. The CEO tried again. We can make this right. Title adjustment, compensation, whatever it takes. You already did what you needed to do. I said, you removed the only person who could legally sign. That doesn't mean we can't bring you back. He said, it does. I said, because authority doesn't return with an apology. The line went quiet again. When he spoke, it was slower. What would it take? I didn't answer immediately. I wanted him to sit with the question, not as leverage, as fact. It would take time. I said clear weeks, certifications, board approval, federal review, and Yui asked. I've moved on, I said. You haven't even started a new role. I don't need one to tell you no. A faint sound like a chair shifting. Then the CEO said, "If we lose our largest contracts, that was a decision made before you called me," I said. He exhaled. "So that's it. That's process." I said. "You taught me to respect it." I ended the call before he could respond. The system they dismantled was still running, just without them in control. Who gets sacrificed when leadership panics? I didn't need updates this time. The fallout had reached the point where silence meant decisions were being made without consultation. Late that afternoon, my phone lit up with a message from Aaron. "Board review in progress. Closed session." An hour later, he called. "They're not even pretending anymore," he said. "Legal laid it out. No hedging." "Say it." I told him. "The acting director bypassed mandatory legal review, fired you without clearance, triggered the revocation himself." I could hear voices in the background. Raised, then clipped, the sound of people choosing words that would protect them later. "He's trying to frame it as initiative," Aaron continued. "Says he acted in the company's best interest. Legal won't let that stand." "I said they didn't," Aaron replied. "Melissa said it, flat out. This was a unilateral decision with foreseeable regulatory consequences." A door shut hard on his end. "He's being asked to hand over credentials," Aaron said quietly. "Right now," another voice broke through the call. The acting director's strained, defensive. I was empowered to make staffing decisions. The response came from someone older, colder. "You are not empowered to dismantle compliance." A pause, then paper sliding across a table. "They just revoked his authority," Aaron said. "All of it effective immediately." I closed my eyes, not in relief, but recognition. This was the only outcome that made sense. "What about the vendors?" I asked. "Already moving," he said. 2 suspended contracts pending compliance restoration. 1 more is reviewing exposure." A muffled protest in the background. "This is temporary," the acting director insisted. No one answered him. "They're escorting him out," Aaron added. "No announcement, just done." I pictured the same hallway he had, watched me walk down, confident and untouched. I imagined him realizing, too late, that authority borrowed under pressure collapses faster than it's claimed. Before hanging up, Aaron said, "They're still hoping this stops the bleeding." I didn't respond. By then, the damage had moved past the point where removing one person could contain it. What would it take to make you return to a place that discarded you? The email arrived just before noon. No greeting, no softening language, just an attachment and a subject line marked urgent. The CEO called a minute later. "Please tell me you've seen it." "I have," I said. "We're prepared to make adjustments," he said carefully. "A senior title, expanded scope, compensation to reflect the disruption." "You mean the disruption you created?" I said, a pause. "We're trying to stabilize the company." I opened the attachment while he weighed it. New title, new salary, more authority than I had ever asked for. Not a single sentence, acknowledging how I had been treated. "There's no apology," I said. "That can be discussed." He replied quickly. "What matters right now is moving forward. Forward requires ownership." I said Melissa joined the call. Matilda were offering a consulting bridge, 6 months full cooperation from the board, and silence. I said, "I see the clause. That's standard," she said. "So is my termination," I replied. The CEO exhaled. "What would make this acceptable?" I didn't raise my voice. "Nothing." He went quiet. When he spoke again, it was almost pleading. "We need your signature to restore compliance." "You had it," I said. "You chose not to protect it." "I was on vacation," he said, "and I was in the room," I replied. I drafted my response while they stayed on the line. 3 sentences. Professional final. I attached the highlighted section of my original contract, the one they had ignored. Section 7, subsection C. "I've sent it," I said. Melissa opened it immediately. I heard her breath catch. The CEO said my name once more. Slower now. "You're walking away." "I'm letting the system finish what you started," I said. The call ended without argument. The offer sat unanswered in my inbox, generous and useless, while the structure they broke remained unsupported. Can a company survive once trust and compliance are both gone? The first cancellation came quietly, a short email forwarded by Aaron with no commentary attached. Contract suspended pending regulatory clarification. The second followed an hour later, then a third. Aaron called that evening. "They're stacking now," he said. "No one wants exposure." "Who's making the calls?" I asked. "Everyone," he replied. "Legal, risk, finance. Even the partners who used to defend him." By him, he meant the acting director, the title he no longer carried. The board issued a statement. Aaron continued. "Internal accountability review. No names, no drama." And him a pause. "He resigned. He resigned." I repeated. "They used that word," Aaron said, "but security escorted him out before lunch. No farewell email, no announcement." I pictured it clearly. The same quiet efficiency he had praised when I signed my termination. Authority removed without ceremony. "The regulators are escalating," Aaron added. "Formal review now, full audit trail." "Press?" I asked. "They called twice," he said. The CEO declined comment. Another message buzzed in while we spoke. Screenshot this time. An internal memo warning staff not to speak externally. Compliance freeze extended. Projects paused indefinitely. "They're bleeding time," Aaron said. "And credibility." "I know," I said. He lowered his voice. "People are asking about you. What are they saying that they didn't realize how much ran through one signature?" I ended the call and sat with the quiet that followed. Not satisfaction, not relief, just the steady awareness of cause meeting effect. Later that night, a former colleague texted, "I'm sorry, I should have spoken up." I replied once, "You're speaking now." The company didn't collapse all at once. It stalled, locked in process, buried under its own assumptions. By morning, the disaster no longer needed momentum. It had structure, and I had already stepped outside it. Is walking away sometimes the strongest move you can make? The offer from the new firm came through a recruiter named Helen, concise and direct. "We don't need to negotiate authority," she said on the call. "Your name already carries it." I accepted 2 days later when I walked into their office in Boston's biotech corridor for onboarding. No one asked me to prove what I knew. No one joked about redundancy. The head of compliance shook my hand and said, "We've been waiting for you." I didn't tell them everything that had happened. I didn't need to. Aaron called that afternoon, his voice quieter than usual. "They're still frozen," he said. "Compliance review hasn't cleared." "Regulators extended the audit window and the CEO," I asked. "He stopped calling," Aaron replied. "Legal told him there's nothing left to negotiate." We sat in silence for a moment. Then he said, "I'm glad you landed somewhere solid." "So am I," I said, and meant it. A week later, I received a final message from the old company. Not an offer, not an apology, a formal notice acknowledging the completion of my termination process. It thanked me for my past contributions and wished me well. I closed it without replying. At my new desk, the systems were clean, the files made sense. When I signed my first authorization, no one watched my hand like it was a threat. It was simply the part of the work. That night, I poured a glass of wine and let the quiet settle. Not the quiet of defeat, the quiet of something finished properly. I didn't burn the building they pushed me out of. I didn't sabotage it or celebrate its failures. I stepped away and let the structure they ignored speak for itself. Power isn't proven by how loudly you remove someone. It's revealed by what collapses when they're gone. The strongest response to disrespect is not revenge, but refusal. Refusal to keep carrying what others refuse to.